11 signs your phone has a virus. Coming in at number 11, we have warm phone. It's no secret that sometimes our phones do get warm. For example, if we use them in the sun, or if we just use them for too long and take up a lot of data. This is because the battery is getting overworked and it makes the phone very hot. And because phones don't have great cooling systems, this means many phones can get very warm very fast. However, if your phone's getting warm even when you don't make a call or use it, then this is a sign your phone's been hacked. Many hackers put viruses onto phones which allow them to be used even when you're not using it. This means the phone may be being used remotely by someone else. They can make it so the phone looks totally normal, but without your knowledge, there's another app running in the background. This will usually be an app clicking ads. This is something called ad fraud, and it's where someone takes over your phone to click ads to make them money. But even scarier, it could be a surveillance app running that you don't know about. Someone could be using your phone's microphone to listen to your every conversation, or maybe even looking at you all the time using your phone's camera. So if your phone's getting warm even when you're not making a call or using it, then this means you should be worried. Look at the other signs on this list and decide, as your phone may have a virus. Next up is unknown numbers. For this one, you need to open your recent calls. If you have many recent calls from unknown numbers, then this is a clear sign your phone has a virus. Have you ever been called by one of those automated machines? Well, sometimes those are just hacked phones. People can actually hack your phone number and then use a computer to control it remotely. They can then use your phone number to start calling other numbers and selling them things or scamming them. And in case you're wondering, a lot of the time they do charge it to you. Many people don't look in their recent calls, so they never even find out about this, or when they do, it's too late. So guys, make sure that every now and then you check your recent calls for unknown numbers, otherwise your phone may have a virus that you don't know about. Next up is can't switch off. Nowadays, people use their phones 24/7. I'm not judging you, I do it too. But one downside to this is it means you almost never turn your phone off. Some people use their phone as an alarm clock, so they never switch it off at night. But if you're unable to turn off your device, this may mean it's got a virus. Some hackers will make it so that once your phone has a virus, you can't turn it off. That way, your phone can always be used for whatever they want. Whether it's watching and listening to you, or using your phone number to scam people, or even to commit ad fraud. They basically never want you to switch your phone off, otherwise they won't be able to use it too. If you go to turn off your phone and it starts dialing other numbers or going on different apps, then it likely is hacked. It could be a system malfunction, but most likely it's a hacker who's programmed a virus to make your phone do other things when you go to turn it off. Next up is reboots. Does your phone ever turn off and then on again by itself? Well, this could be a sign your phone is infected with a virus. Many viruses on phones actually have a reboot function. This ensures the phone is always turned on and always has the virus switched on. Many viruses set their phones to reboot once every 24 hours. So if you're seeing your phone reboot by itself at least once a day, then it definitely has a virus. Next up is invasive ads. So when you use the internet on any phone, it will have some ads. These ads help to support websites and companies, so there's usually nothing too bad about them. But if your phone has incredibly invasive ads, this could be a sign of a virus. If the adverts actually cover up your entire phone and you can't get off them until you click the ads, then this could be a sign you have adware on your phone. Adware is a very specific type of virus which is all about adverts. It basically bombards you with adverts which you have to click to get out of them, making the scammer lots of money. Adware can even infect your phone with a malicious code. This means it's impossible to get rid of and you'll have to live with tons of ads on your phone all the time. So if you suddenly start noticing many more ads on your phone, then it may not just be websites getting greedy. It's most likely an adware virus which has been downloaded onto your phone. The most common ways to get adware viruses is by downloading something illegally. If you've downloaded illegal music or a movie onto your phone, then this may come with adware. So guys, either download the real thing and pay for it, or don't download it at all, otherwise you may be getting some adware. And because adware is a multi-billion-dollar business, this means it's very hard to get rid of as it's built very well. Next up, we have data use. So we've already covered ad fraud. This is where people use your phone's background applications to click ads, making them money. Well guys, if you see abnormal data consumption on your phone, this may mean you have a virus. You can go into your used data in your settings to see how much data you've used. If your data is an incredibly high number, this means your phone likely has a virus. It will have a breakdown of where the data's been used, and if it's been used in apps you don't usually use, then this is another clear sign you have a virus. Viruses need to send and receive information from their creators using the internet. This means you'll be using way more internet data than you usually do. So if your data has suddenly surged up, then you need to check if you've got a virus. If you have unlimited data, then you may not even notice this in your bill. But if you don't have unlimited data, then get ready to run out of it very fast. Or if you have an ongoing plan, then get ready for your premiums to go way up. Next up, we have battery life. If your phone's got a virus, it's likely being used for malicious things 24/7. And because your phone's being used all the time, this means it's going to take a lot of battery. You may just think your phone's getting old if your battery is suddenly going down like crazy. Or maybe you're just using a buggy or badly written app. But it's also a very scary sign your phone has got a virus. Whenever you've got an unknown app or apps running in the background, this will cause your battery to go down very fast. So guys, look in your settings and take note of where your battery is mostly being used. If it's on an app you don't use very often, then that's a sign you likely have a virus. And finally on the list, we have phone bill. So this is something you don't even need to look at on your phone. This is something anyone who looks at their phone bill often will realize very soon. Some people simply don't even look at their phone bill and just pay it. But for those who are more responsible with their finances, you likely check your phone bill. Well, if your phone bill's gone up dramatically, it may mean you've been using more calls or texts. Or maybe you've been using social media and the internet more than usual. But don't be so quick to blame yourself, it may actually be because of a virus. If a virus is using internet the entire time, then this is going to cost you money. The virus may be sending out lots of calls and texts using your number. Or it may be using the internet 24/7, costing you a ton of cash. So guys, always check your phone bills, and if you see something irregular, then contact your cellular provider instantly. Alright guys, those were signs that your phone has a virus. 8 things you should never say to Siri. Coming in at number 10 we have call my girlfriend. So everyone hates remembering numbers. And if you have a lot of contacts, it can be annoying to scroll down and find the right one to call. So you may think just saying to Siri, call my girlfriend or call my boyfriend would be easy. But actually this is something you should never tell Siri to do. You can actually tell Siri to call people who you know. For example, you could say, call my dad or my mom. Siri would then actually do that, and it's all based off the tags in your contacts. Siri can actually assign tags to your contacts, for example, mom, dad, brother, sister, boyfriend, and girlfriend. But there's a catch, Siri cannot remove tags. So if you tag someone as your girlfriend, you better make sure you're with them forever. Otherwise, if you say to Siri, call my girlfriend, then they'll call your ex. That could be very embarrassing and awkward. So make sure you don't tell Siri to call your boyfriend or girlfriend, or it may add a tag. Then if you break up, things will get very awkward if you use Siri. Next up, we have hide a body. So we've all seen funny reactions of people saying, Siri, how do I hide a body? Now, Siri's answers to this are pretty funny. But guys, you're better off Googling this. Or maybe even going onto the dark web so you can't be tracked. That is because apparently if you ask Siri how to hide a body, the secret services can be informed. That's right, people from the CIA or FBI may be checking up on you. According to leaked files, the NSA can actually see what people ask Siri. So guys, be warned when asking Siri these kind of questions. Even if you are doing it just for fun, Big Brother is watching. I'm not saying the FBI is gonna burst down your door just for asking this question, but it may flash up on their radar, which is never a good thing. Next up, we have meaning of life. So guys, have you ever had an existential crisis and wondered, why are we all here? What's the whole point of life? Well guys, if you want a nice and happy answer, then you should not ask Siri. If you ask Siri this, they're not going to sugarcoat anything and they'll be very, very blunt. If you ask Siri, why are we here? They say, I don't know, I often wonder that myself. Then again, being a voice trapped inside a phone probably isn't a great life. Next up is call an ambulance. So you may think if you're in an emergency, it would be a good idea to call an ambulance using Siri. But guys, if you want to do this, you need to always use the emergency call function. Never use Siri, and I'll tell you exactly why. If you say to Siri, Siri, call me an ambulance, Siri will take that the wrong way and literally start calling you an ambulance. Siri will understand it as some kind of funny nickname and literally call you an ambulance. Yeah, Siri doesn't exactly understand human emotions. So if you're going, Siri, call me an ambulance, then that's exactly the same as, Siri, call me an ambulance! So guys, it's better to be safe than sorry and just use the emergency call thing instead of Siri if you want an ambulance. Next up, we have medical questions. So let's say you don't need an ambulance, but you do want some kind of medical advice. You may think that asking Siri would be a good idea, but Siri is described as a personal assistant, not a personal nurse. That's why it's much better to rely on a professional if you need health advice. We all know that when you Google symptoms, it's never a good thing and it just gets you panicked. A lot of the time it's nothing, and sometimes they even suggest self-treatment. Instead, it's way better to call up a professional doctor and ask their opinion. Siri is useful for fun facts and other things like that, but when it comes to serious medical questions, I would avoid using Siri. Next up, we have September 11th. So we all know the terrible things that happened on September 11th, 2001. But the police have actually asked people not to search for information about September 11th using Siri. If you're not from America, you may be wondering why. Well, in America, instead of saying dates like day, month, year, they say month, day, year. That means the 11th of September is 9/11. So sometimes when people ask Siri about 9/11, it actually calls 911, which is the police. Another similar thing has happened in India. In India, the police number is 108. There was a prank a few years back when people would write on the internet saying, "Oh my gosh guys, ask Siri 108. They said that Siri would do something funny or crazy, but instead it just called the Indian police. Guys, it's really not funny to mess with the police and waste their time, so make sure you do not do this. And if you want info on 9/11, then use Google instead of Siri. Next up, we have name change. So when it comes to Siri, you can customize it somewhat. You can have an American woman's voice, an Australian man's voice, or a British man's voice. And of course, if you're in a non-English speaking country, you get a whole different voice. But one thing you cannot customize about Siri is its name. If you ask to change Siri's name, it will say, "Sorry, but I am Siri and I will remain as Siri." Yeesh, you don't have to be so blunt about it, Siri. Anyway, it seems that Siri really is not in the mood for changing names and loves the name Siri. So guys, if you're hoping to change Siri's name, then don't even bother. All you'll get is a moody response. And finally, we have dangerous animals and plants. So guys, maybe one day you encounter a dangerous animal or plant. You may want to find some information out and use Siri for that purpose. But guys, do not search for unknown animals or plants, especially if you live in Australia. You see, if you ask Siri about these unknown plants and animals, it's full of misinformation. That's not Siri's fault. Siri simply pulls articles and text from the internet. But we all know that sometimes the internet can be pretty unreliable. It's best to read up in books or on a legit website before encountering one of these things. But if you do encounter an unknown animal or plant, then be sure to not use Siri. The same goes for skin and home parasites, so make sure you don't use Siri for that either. You can't guarantee that Siri will find the correct answer online, so it's best to look it up when you have a bit more time and energy. So guys, those were the things you should never say to Siri. If you guys want to learn some more things you should never say to Siri, then be sure to leave a comment letting me know. Who's tracking you right now? It may sound crazy, but there may be people tracking you right now using your phone. But how can you be sure this is actually going on? Well, there's some tips and numbers you can actually dial to find out if you're being tracked. I'm also going to show you a way to find your phone if it's ever stolen without using any apps whatsoever. And most importantly, how to stop people from tracking you using your phone. But first, why not subscribe and press the notification bell too? Can you imagine anything worse than someone tracking you and looking at everything on your phone? You may have something very private on your phone, like private images or text messages. Whether it's a Facebook password or your credit card information, it's not something you want other people to see. Well, believe it or not, many people actually have hacked phones. Out of all the billions of phones in the world, an estimated 40% of them have some kind of hack. This is usually a simple virus which has been installed onto their phone. These do things like transfer your calls, messages, and other data somewhere else. Wherever they're being diverted to then has all of your information, and they can do very bad things with this. People have had their identities stolen simply because of a virus on their phone. But what's a way you can actually check if your phone is being tracked? Well, don't worry, you don't need to be some kind of computer genius. And you don't even need to install any apps. All you need to do is use your number pad and type in numbers. If it seems like no one can get through to you and you can't call anyone else, then your calls may be being redirected. Well, if it seems like your calls and messages are being redirected, you can use this code. In the number pad, simply put in *#62#. This will allow you to see if someone's tracking you by redirecting all of your calls. If your calls are being redirected, this means every time someone tries to call you, it actually goes to a different number. And that also happens if you try to call anyone else. Let's say you try and call someone else, instead it will simply go to a different number. This is usually used to spy on people and try and hack them for their personal information. People give out things like banking information and passwords over the phone. Of course you should never do this, but many people are not security conscious and do it anyway. But luckily if your calls are being redirected, you should be able to tell, as no one will be able to get through to you. And of course you won't be able to call or text anyone else. But what if people can call you and you can call other people? Well, that doesn't mean you're not being tracked. You never know, your calls, messages, and mobile data may actually be being redirected somewhere else. This is called a diversion. You can still make calls and text people, but someone else will see them and track whatever you're saying. This is a very common thing that happens to many people's phones. But before we look into how it happens and how to stop it from happening, check whether it's happening to you. All you need to do in your keypad is press *#21#. When you type this in, the phone number that all of your information is being diverted to will show up on your screen. Some parents actually do this to their children's phones to check up on them and make sure they're not getting into trouble. So if you believe your parent may be spying on you and tracking you using this code, then type it into your keypad. Other people, like criminals, may also be doing this to try and harvest your data. This data is actually very valuable and can be stolen on the dark web. People who do this usually hack thousands of phones at once using a bot. They then sell the information on to other people. If you go on the dark web, you can actually buy stolen Facebook passwords for $1. These trackers can also happen if you lend your phone to a stranger. It's a popular scam nowadays in many countries where someone will come up to you and ask to make a phone call. You may think that simply allowing them to borrow your phone is no big deal, but what you don't know is they've actually put a virus onto your phone which allows them to track you. But let's say your phone is having a diversion or a redirection. What exactly can you do to stop these people tracking your phone and maybe taking your data? Well, it's actually very simple and it's just one more keypad number. If you dial ##002#, this will switch off all forms of redirection. This code is universal and works in every country, and it will switch off any diversions or redirections on your phone. That way, if your phone is being hacked and tracked, then you can turn it off simply using this one code. It also helps to use some kind of antivirus software on your cell phones. Both the Android and iPhone App Store offer various antivirus apps which work great. This will make it much harder for anyone to try and hijack and track your phone. So that's how to protect your phone digitally. But another thing many people want to do is protect their phone physically. What I mean by that is making sure that your cell phone hasn't been stolen by someone. Let's say someone has stolen your phone and you can't find it. You may try to use an app like Find My iPhone, but this can easily be turned off. The person who stole your phone can simply take your SIM card out and then put a new one in. But there's one way to track a phone to make sure it's never lost or stolen. And because it's built into the phone's hardware, there's nothing the thief can do to turn it off. This is called your IMEI number. This stands for International Mobile Equipment Identity Number. This is a unique 15-digit number which is attached to every single phone. It's nothing to do with the SIM card or anything that can be swapped out, and it's actually built into the phone's hardware. You can actually use this number to track where your phone is to make sure it's never lost or stolen. But how do you find out what your IMEI number actually is? Well, it's simple. All you have to do is enter *#06# into your keypad. This will then display your 15-digit IMEI number. You should write this down in case your phone is ever taken. That way you can track where it is. Hopefully you can now rest easy with the knowledge that you'll never be able to lose your phone or get it stolen again. If someone steals your phone, you can simply track it and then report that location to the police. And if you lose it, of course you can trace it back to where you left it. But before we end this video, let's go back to phone tracking. Other than call redirection and diversions, is there any other way you can be tracked while using your phone? Well, believe it or not, the government can actually see what you're doing on your phone. The NSA has the ability to see what anyone's doing on any phone. However, there is one way to get around this, and that is by using an encrypted service. Encrypted services are totally closed to outsiders as the messages only go between two parties. Apps such as Signal or Telegram are used by government officials and celebrities. That's because they're encrypted and no one else can see into their messages and see their very secret things. This also works creating countries which block certain parts of the internet. Another thing you can use is a VPN. Your IP address is used to locate you and your location. But if you use a VPN, it will give you a brand new one in a totally different place. So those are ways to make sure even the government can't track you while using your phone. And of course we've already covered the ways we can stop hackers from tracking us using our phones too. And of course who could forget the essential IMEI number. Just think how many people had their phones lost or stolen and simply bought a new one when they could have tracked it using this number. So those were the ways to find out who's tracking you, how to stop them doing it, and also how to prevent your phone from getting lost or stolen. 8 dangerous apps you need to delete now. Coming up first, we have weather apps. Weather apps are a kind of app which is super popular, but some weather apps, especially ones on Android, often contain a lot of viruses. Years ago, weather apps were super popular. Your phone likely does come with a weather app, but it's pretty basic. That's why many people downloaded various different kinds of weather apps. However, it turned out many of these weather apps actually contained many viruses and things called trojans. Because mainly older people download weather apps, these app developers thought no one would notice. But obviously people did notice when they realized money going out of their bank accounts. That's because some of these weather apps actually have a Trojan in them. This is basically something that records every single key you press on your keypad. That means whenever you're entering in passwords or credit card info, the app sees this. This information was then sent to the very dodgy developers of these apps, and then they stole a lot of money. One of the most popular apps was called Good Weather, but according to We Live Security, this turned out to be a malicious app that stole information of users. So make sure you only download legit weather apps and don't download ones which have viruses. Next up is Unknown Antivirus. So with all these apps out there that can give you a virus, many people download antivirus apps onto their cell phones. But ironically, a lot of the time, these antiviruses contain viruses. Now, there are some antivirus apps out there which are totally fine, but you need to make sure before you download an antivirus app, it's from a known developer. Be sure to look into the developer, and if it's something legit like Norton, then you should download it. But if you've never heard of the developer or they seem suspicious, then avoid that app at all costs. Some antivirus apps even contain adverts. That doesn't necessarily mean they'll give you a virus, but most people don't want unnecessary ads all over their phones. The reason why there's so many fake antivirus apps is because developers realize it's easier to make an antivirus app than a virus app. Antivirus apps need access to all documents so they can scan through for any viruses. But of course, these fake antivirus apps use it for things like stealing your passwords and personal data. And in some cases, these fake antivirus apps have even completely locked the phone. This means the person who uses the phone cannot access it. However, someone else can remotely access it and pretty much take over your phone. Next up is apps for increasing RAM. For anyone who doesn't know what RAM is, it means random access memory. This is how much space you have on your phone for files and other things. For example, you may have bought your phone with 12 GB of RAM. This means you can store 12 GB worth of photos, apps, music, and documents. But I'm sure we've all got that message on our phones before saying you're almost all out of storage. That's why many people, instead of buying a new phone or more RAM, which can be expensive, download a free RAM increasing app. But be warned, there is no way an app can increase RAM on your phone. RAM is a piece of hardware and it can't be downloaded. It's actually a physical thing you need to put into your phone. The apps that claim to give you more RAM are usually just RAM optimizers. This means they just clear your temporary files, which you can just do anyway on your phone settings. Sometimes these RAM increasing apps actually cost money, which is a total rip-off. And sometimes the free ones can actually collect your data, which is never a good thing. Also, because it needs to delete your temporary files, it can look through all of your documents and easily seize your data. So be warned when it comes to downloading apps which claim to give you more free RAM. Next up we have lie detectors. It kind of goes without saying that lie detector apps are just a load of rubbish. Maybe you can just use them for fun and pretend like it works, and that is why most people download them. But the dangerous thing about these apps isn't that they don't actually work. Instead, it's been found that these apps dramatically shorten your battery life. These apps can easily track things like your location or other things in the background and are always on. Most of these app developers don't make too much money just from you downloading a free app. That's why they do things like collect your data sometimes and sell the data to make money. Obviously, this is not the case with every lie detector app, but be warned before downloading one. If it asks you for access like things to your personal contacts and other information, then don't download it. Chances are they just want your info and your data to sell. Also, they take up tons of battery space, so be wary before downloading a lie detector app. Next up is social media. When I say you shouldn't have social media apps on your phone, I'm not telling you to go delete Facebook, Instagram, and other fun apps. But oftentimes, you may have the wrong kind of app for what you need. Some social media apps like Facebook take up a lot of battery space and storage. That's because there's so much stuff on the app and it often does run in the background. But don't worry, because many developers actually make a light version of their apps. It's much better to download the light version of many social media apps. This light version not only saves your battery life, but it also costs less money. Let's say you're browsing out and about on 3G. These light apps take up way less data from your phone, which saves you money as well as battery life. This is the case for most social media apps, so just make sure you download the right ones and you'll save battery life and money. Next up is built-in browsers. When you first open up your brand new cell phone, you likely have some internet browsers built in, but these browsers are often not very good. Browsers which are built right into phones are usually very slow and not very popular. It's like using Internet Explorer after getting a PC. Most people download something like Chrome or Firefox instead. Well, that's the exact same on your cell phone, whether it's an iPhone or an Android. You can download an app like the Google Chrome app and it makes for a much better browsing experience. Unlike Google Chrome, these built-in browsers have no protection from data interception. This means people can hack and see what you're typing in very easily. And any information you put into that built-in browser is not necessarily secure. Not only that, they're also known for slowing down system performance and just not working very well and having very few features. So make sure when you buy a new phone you download a new browser and don't use the built-in one. Next up we have optimizers. Is your phone acting up or being really slow? You may be feeling down about this and then see an app saying, "We can clean your phone for free." Well, some things are too good to be true, unfortunately. Many apps which claim to be optimizers don't really optimize your phone at all. Instead, these apps often perform functions your phone can do anyway in its settings. That's stuff like clearing your phone's cache and unnecessary apps and programs. Pretty much every phone can just do this on its own without downloading any special apps. Ironically, many of these optimizer apps actually slow your phone down even more and also take up lots of battery space. And not only that, many of these optimizers have a lot of adverts in them too. So get ready to spend a few hours a day closing down tons of random ads that pop up all over your phone. And these apps can also easily collect personal data, so be warned when it comes to downloading optimizer apps. Coming up next is defragmentation apps. You may be wondering, what is a defragmentation app? Well, defragmentation is the process of arranging files into fragments. For example, you could fit many files into one fragment, which frees up a lot of space on your phone. For example, you could put a lot of files in one fragment, which frees up a lot of space on your computer. But be warned, this only works on computers and does not work on phones. Cell phones don't have hard drives for these apps to defragment. Most phones already have this function anyway, so you really don't need it. These phones don't save you any storage space like they claim, and may even collect your personal data. These apps are very popular as people think they work the same way they do on computers. But really, these apps are usually just lying to you despite their good reviews they may have. Next up is browsers with additional features. I've already told you that it's best to download a different browser instead of using your phone's built-in one. But when it comes to getting a browser, make sure you use one which is legit, like Opera, Google Chrome, or Firefox. Downloading a dodgy one which has additional features like watching movies or streaming music isn't usually a good idea. A lot of the time, these apps have many adverts, which is very annoying. A good browser shouldn't have tons of ads bombarding you all the time, so make sure you download one without ads. Not only that, because of the additional features, whether it be music, movies or games, this can make your system very slow. Get ready for your battery life to go from 100 to 0 very fast. And not only, a lot of the time, these apps ask for lots and lots of permissions, including managing phone calls. This is obviously very unsecure, and it's best to avoid apps that ask for way too much access to your cell phone. Instead, download a browser which is legit and you know works well without any ads or dodgy features.